Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is Adam Klasfeld from All Rise News, and this is a bit of a reunion for me and Lev Parnas. We had first seen each other during Donald Trump's first impeachment in 2019. I was over in Washington, D.C., and Lev Parnas knew everybody, and he used to be tight with Trump World until he started telling a lot of Trump World secrets. And then all of a sudden, everyone pretended they didn't know Lev Parnas. And I remember going around Capitol Hill showing photos of him with all of the Republicans. Some of them, oh, I don't remember taking that photo. Some of them tried to dance around it. And we started talking and we broke some stories together. And we're trying to get at the bottom of another story tonight. That's the ongoing Jeffrey Epstein fallout with the White House. And right now, one of the most recent headlines has been about the White House meeting that was supposed to happen last night involving J.D. Vance, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Todd Blanche. Word got out, and then Vance gave a denial. He said that they were not meeting about the Epstein situation. He did not deny the existence of a meeting. He denied an existence of a meeting on the Epstein situation. Now the latest report is a smaller group met, Bondi, Vance, and Patel. And notice one name that does not come up in any of these meetings, and that's Dan Bongino. And there's been murmurings for the past several weeks that he's been unhappy with the fallout. He's an old podcast guy who had lots of theories about Jeffrey Epstein, and this is really damaging his brand. He's deeply unhappy. And Lev, through his connections at the White House, as he has some insights on that. So I wanted to start with that. And welcome back, Lev. Great to reconnect.
Adam, thank you so much for having me here on your show and on Substack. I want to first tell everybody out there that, I don't talk about a lot of independent journalists. Adam Klasfeld is a class act. He's definitely one that if you are not following, you need to make sure you subscribe to that button because he does real good, honest, true journalism. He covered my case from the beginning. He was there with me when I first got indicted. He reported, and he was always reporting on it honestly and truthfully. So I could tell you from the horse's mouth, definitely want to give Adam a follow. As far as what's happening here, it's interesting. There's a lot of moving parts that's been going on. I mean, I've been, for those of you that have been following me on Substack, have been the past week, I mean, literally since July 6th, when the whole Epstein, when they tried to bury it, when it first came out, when they first, that memo came out during 4th of July weekend that they're supposedly, that's it, they're closing the files, and when that spark hit, I started telling you, and we started talking about it, and that this was his Achilles heel. This was his kryptonite. This was something that we needed to keep, pushing. And with God's grace, thank God that the media hasn't let up. Thank God that the independent journalists kept pushing, and we're here. So what happened the past couple of days? I'll tell you. August 5th. This was, I think, was it Tuesday? Today's Thursday, right? So this was Tuesday. Right. So I was planning on, we were leaving to Legoland, and I get a call, and I'm like, there's this meeting happening. I'm like, what? Yeah, J.D. Vance is having this dinner, and this is who's going to be there. And gave, the guest list, like you said, which I reported on: Susie Wiles, Todd Blanche. You're going to have Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. And there's a reason why each in person there. That's why the media hasn't been reporting. Like they spoke about what I spoke about, that there was supposedly a meeting that's supposed to happen, and they spoke about that some of the things that obviously that they were going to talk about was the Epstein, the Maxwell transcripts, how if they were not going to release him or not, how the story is going to be framed. Blanche was going to coordinate that because you had head of the DOJ, head of the FBI, plus don't forget, you have now James Comer in the mix, all good. Jamie Comer from the House Intelligence that is out there now with subpoena power, trying to bring people in and paint the story to the world in his own way to scrub Trump. So you got all of these moving parts going on. So I'm told that, they're going to have this meeting, but one of the important parts in this meeting, which the media is not talking about, which we're going to, talk about break here with you, Adam, is Dan Bongino. That basically that Cash Patel that is going to be that basically this would go besides the Epstein. You had Susie Weil that was representing Donald Trump. You had Cash Patel that was representing Dan Bongino, and you had Pam Bondi in the middle. Because right now, as of what I'm hearing lately, Donald Trump hasn't spoken to Dan Bongino since the last time he either convinced him through threat or begging him, whatever. I don't know an exact reason how he got him to stay. But Dan Bongino, when this whole thing broke with Pam Bondi, left the office. Didn't people were saying he wasn't going to come back. He's never gotten back on the train. And this is the problem Trump's cabinet is having right now, his inner circle, is because they have a loose cannon out there, Dan Bongino. Because right now they're about to probably do the biggest cover up in American history, and some major people are going to go down. Some major people are going to get covered up. So I mean, this is a major play that's about to take down by having Maxwell come out, start testifying in Congress, start naming certain names, whitewashing other names. We're already seeing reports where she said to Todd Blanche that Trump was always good behavior. She never seen him doing anything good. You're seeing a prelude to that happen. But they can't do it fully without having Bongino on board, because if all of a sudden he breaks, because you got to understand, Dan Bongino made his whole career, his whole, he was an ex-Secret Service guy that served under Obama, became a right-wing pundit. I was there. I saw the formation of Dan Bongino when he was nobody, when, in 2015 and 16 was just rah, rah, rah going into mega. And he then turned his podcast and everything, and a lot of it, most of it was centered around the Epstein stuff, about getting to the bottom of it, about going out there and talking about how it's the tie-in to the deep state, to the Clintons, to the child trafficking, sex pornography. This is where QAnon came from. QAnon came from this. This was inserted into the mega beliefs, into our cult minds, that this Epstein case, this is all, and it had to do with the Democrats. And so when this thing broke, and in July 6th, when this first they tried to cover it up by putting out that memo, leaking that memo, and saying that there's nothing else that's going to come out, there's no list, there's nothing, and Bongino came out strong against it, because I don't have the exact reasons. We could speculate why. Maybe because he's the only actually cop, police, or whatever, between all of them. They're all lawyers and businessmen. He's an actual, maybe he really cares about the kids or the victim survivors. Maybe it's because he cares about himself, and he has some, about what he's going to do. And, after the Trump administration. I mean, I don't know what his, what it is, and I can't tell you that, but I could tell you from what I'm hearing, and with confidence, that he's right now the loose cannon in the group. And that's why another story I broke that was just confirmed, like you said, that they met afterwards. I wrote about it literally yesterday in the morning, or today in the morning. I'm already confused at the days. I'm in Legoland with my kids, because I've been breaking these while I've been trying to be. Well, I was on while I am on a roller coaster, I'm typing on. I can't. Adam, can you imagine me doing this when you met me 5 years? 5 years ago, he's sitting here doing, something, but it's something that I feel like right now it's helping save our democracy. So yeah, I mean, I wrote about that because we broke this. And because CNN picked up on it, and MSNBC and other news articles and the independent media started talking about, and he was asked in the Oval about this dinner that was supposed to take place, so they canned it. And what I wrote in my Substack later on is that they met, but there was a smaller group, and the group that met was Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, because now it wasn't about, right now they're not worried about the framing of the narrative that Maxwell and Blanche and Comer and that they're going to write. They're worried about to make sure that everybody, all the soldiers are in line. And one of the soldiers is Dan Bongino, and him and Pam Bondi are. So,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
to go into some of the reporting that we're seeing from the networks here, I think CNN recently reported three administration officials said that they believe that he, Dan Bongino, will eventually leave his post and return to hosting his podcast once the Epstein blowback subsides. So there really is some reporting that is citing three administration officials saying that they believe that he will leave. He's been quiet. He's not being included in these meetings. But what about this whole, I tend to look at this with a kind of jaundiced view. You mentioned he's a right-wing podcaster. He was a guy who pushed the Spygate conspiracy theory.
Yep,
His
yep.
interest in the Epstein story seems to have been in the kind of, as you put it, the QAnon bent. How much of this is Dan Bongino pushing a kind of self-serving narrative of resistance to this, and how much of this is sincere?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, I don't know, and that's why, Adam, I hate to speculate because part of my platform is I try to speak truth to power, and for me to do that, I have to deal with facts. Every time I speculate, I give them an opportunity to come after me and debate that situation. So I don't know what his motives are. I don't know if he's sincere and he just wants to help. I don't know if it's because self-serving. I mean, we could, I could give you my opinions, and from what I know about the guy, I think all of them are self-serving. I think that's a big part of it. I don't think, if any of them were sincere, and if he was really sincere, he'd be already out. I don't think it takes so long. I mean, this is such a serious issue when it comes to child pornography, all of thousands of victims, all of this going on. So, I mean, I think if he's having a hard time with coming out with the truth, I don't think these are the type of conversations that would be having. I think he's more like, especially like you said, there's now already reports that are confirming what I'm saying, that he's wanting to leave and go back to podcasting. So obviously, and his whole business is based on the Epstein. So if he covers it up, then he has no podcast to go back to. What does he go back to and tell him? So I mean, I don't think he's as much a sincere as self. I'll tell you from my personal opinion, self gratification, whatever you want to call that. But to be honest with you, I really don't care, and I don't think we should care as American citizens and as human beings and people that want to save our democracy. We should be happy, and for whatever reason he wants to do it, let him because he right now might be the thing that blows up everything in Trump world. Just think about that. Think about the position he is in. He is right now. He has the second head of the FBI. He has seen the Epstein files. He has seen everything that is going on. He has seen and more, so he knows all the details from inside out. So whatever cover up, however deep, however strong, however, whatever words you want to use and wherever you want to go with, he could blow it all up. And they can't do it without him on board. So just think about the dilemma they're having that, which is why I'm ringing the bell and saying like, hello, put a spotlight on, like, this is what's really happening, because that's why you haven't heard Maxwell speak yet. That's why you have all these delays. You're going to see this because they can't come out with narratives and stories when all of a sudden Bongino leaves tomorrow. Bongino will become a billionaire because all he has to do is now tell the truth and kill their whole narrative and call Trump the deep state, and it's over with. You know what I'm saying
Right.
to you? So because
Right.
yeah,
You were an exiled Trump world insider in Trump one. What are your observations of the differences between the first Trump's term and the second Trump term in terms of the dynamic here? You still have a lot of this behind the scenes where someone, one person's unhappy. We see this jockeying happening during the meetings. What's the difference between these two terms as you've seen it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's several differences. First of all, he is different. He has learned. When he first came into office, I remember I was part of the transition team with Brian Ballard back then. I mean, he didn't even know, like, he had nobody on his team that was experienced enough that knew even how to get what to do in the White House. So he had to go out to get the Paul Ryans, the people that they call rhinos right now. He couldn't go build a loyal team around him of people that are loyal to him. He had to go people that knew how to run the White House, how to run the department, because he had no idea. He had nobody on his team that had the knowledge of that was coming in to do that. So that's why you saw in a transition where there was so much backstabbing, so much firing, so much going, because back then there were guardrails. There were people that were coming in. Yes, you had loyalists, but even his own loyals were still had like some common sense. Like even his own daughter, Ivanka, Jared. Yes, they were as loyal as they could come, and they were there to do all this behind the scenes stuff. But they still at certain times would try to calm him down, bring him back, and which is gone. And then you had all of these other, like you said, Republicans and people out there that first, had a duty to the Constitution, to the office, and then to him. And with him, that was all butting heads. And that's why he always did the shadow diplomacy. He had, people like me, like he still has. And the interesting part, which to me is funny, is now where he controls everything. Where completely he still till this day believes in the deep state. He still till this day has Steve Witkoff out there doing dirty work like me. Like he had me instead of having official channels. Like just think about it. Instead of having like Marco Rubio meet up with Vladimir Putin, somebody like a Rubio that you would expect that had so many years in the Senate that dealing with this history of knowing everything, the geopolitics. You bring in a guy like Witkoff that has no clue whatsoever. He probably watched a Netflix series the night before about what Putin is, and now he goes in there, no translator, no this, no nothing, hands in the air, goes in there. He's met him 5 times, Adam. Now
Mm.
you've been doing reporting a lot of times. You tell me you show me another person that's met Vladimir Putin in a period of 6 months 5 times. It doesn't happen. That's what I'm saying to you. So even till this day, he still counts and doesn't trust, his inner. So even though they purged everything, I mean, they purged the FBI, they purged the State Department. You got Pete Hegseth, getting rid of everybody, flipping it upside down. So the biggest difference that he has now compared to them, besides he himself now being from a mob boss to a dictator, learning all of this, major stuff, is that he has the loyalty around him. He was able, the Senate and the Congress basically sold our country out because we know who Donald Trump is and everybody he's a tyrant and everything. And we've had plenty of people that tried to do this in the history of the United States. Not everybody was a great president or wanted to run. But what always had everything that kept us such a great country were the guardrails. You had the 3 different branches. You had Congress, Senate. Even during the Nixon era, you had your own Republicans that stood up to Nixon to get him to leave, even though, yes, they might have not impeached him. He might have not got punished. He might have got, but they still made him leave. They didn't let him continue. With Trump, it was different. They let him basically, they gave him the House. They gave him everything. They gave him the Senate. They gave him all 3 branches and said, bow down, said the executive branch is it. And let him give him the power of the pen. And the biggest thing they did is they confirmed all his loyalists. Now you'd say, yeah, but many of presidents in the history, had his people all confirmed and everything. And I'm not disagreeing it, but we're not talking about people that belong in these positions. We're talking about straight loyalists. We're talking about people like Tulsi Gabbard that would never, unless the Trump administration ever get confirmed by the Senate without Trump pressuring, threatening, and all of this behind the scenes. You're talking about a guy like Pete Hegseth that would never, ever get confirmed unless Trump, did all the behind the scenes, the pushing, the threatening, and then you're talking about, okay, Pam Bondi, maybe because of her story, but you know what I'm saying to you. But Kash Patel, FBI director, I mean, just think about these picks picks that, some of these picks that they put through. And these are the picks, these are the people that are in the positions that give him full control of the power, because he controls the DOJ. He controls the FBI. He controls the marshals and so yeah, so you could have a court go out there and say, you know what, you're wrong, or arrest him, but you can't do it because he controls the actual arm of the facility that has the power to arrest you, have the power to take away your freedom, and and he's using it against American citizens. And so not only is he taking away all that, but now he's also going out there now and destroying your constitution and taking people off the street without due process, just basically throwing him into makeshift concentration camps here, right back here, Alligator Alcatraz, where he has his little Bud Buddy Ron DeSantis running behind, doesn't know how he could fall over himself to build another prison or something to, get in his good graces. But, that's where the biggest difference is, that they all bowed down and they gave it, because he was always a tyrant, but they gave him the keys to the house. And that's the scary part.
Well, let's turn to a trend that we're seeing now, a very aggressive rewriting of the 2016 presidential election and Trump's relationship to Russia. Because what we have now, and that, at heart, that's what the first impeachment was about, the Ukraine scandal, trying to gin up a phony investigation against the Bidens in order to exonerate himself after the big embarrassment of the Mueller report. From where you're sitting, what has the trajectory of this been like from what you've seen about Trump's relationship to the Russian government?
Well, it's grown and it's transformed tremendously, and not only Trump's, but the people around Trump, and the people that he has doing things, and it's that's like some of the things I'm saying, because people like Witkoff, he might seem like he's new to the scene. He might seem, because a lot of people don't know who he is, that he's just some billionaire. But Witkoff's been around Trump world for a very long time. Witkoff's been around these same Russian oligarchs that you see Trump being linked to, and all of these same names of many years, from being in the real estate industry. I mean, this is a guy that I reported on. Basically gave a letter for Golubchik, who the guy that was one of the organized crime, what's it called, from Russian organized crime, to get an apartment in New York City. And then when he, at his indictment, when he was asked why, Witkoff wrote that letter of recommendation, he said, well, he made a mistake. He did it on behalf of a friend. You know what I'm saying to you? So he goes back, they made money. I mean, back in the 90s, this was, I mean, New York real estate, we all talk about Trump, but Trump wasn't the only one. New York real estate was basically a laundromat for a lot of the Russian oligarchy, a lot of the Russian money, Putin's money that came through the system, and that's where the relationships built. Also, Witkoff was around in 2017 with Jared Kushner back in Saudi Arabia, where the first real relationship started formulating, because a lot of people don't understand that where back in 2017 there was a guy named Dmitry Kirillov, Kirill Dmitriev. I'm sorry, he's the wealth fund manager, and also Putin's like right hand. His wife is Putin's daughter, have a business together or something like that. I mean, he's really, really connected, and he's the guy that's being, the liaison Putin chose to be between the United States, and he's the guy that you see around Witkoff all the time. Him and Kushner became very close in Saudi Arabia back in 2017. Ever since then, they've held the relationship, and even the reporting that was going out that Trump had, certain talks with Putin while he was out of office. It wasn't Trump having conversations with Putin. It was the people like behind the scenes, like Dmitry Kirillov and what's his name, Kushner, and that's where Witkoff comes in. He's been a player a long time, knowing these players involved, and that's why Trump has such a loyalty towards, because Witkoff goes there not with the Constitution agenda. He doesn't go there with the people's agenda. He goes there with only one person's agenda. That's Donald Trump's. So that's why you see this type of alliance going in there. And that's why I think his relationship with Putin and Russia has grown. It's always it's like Trump says it. He was put into bed with Russia because the Democrats pushed so hard with Russia Gate, and since the beginning of 2015, Trump kind of even till this day. I remember back then, and I know now, he feels that if he gets separated from Russia and Russia gets convicted, like, found guilty of doing something bad to the United States, it's like automatically he was a part of it. Like, he feels connected to Russia to such a part where you see him basically, playing, being Putin's useful idiot in all of these situations that are happening right now, literally. I mean, besides everything else that going on, you see Trump just, right now pretending he's going to meet Putin now. You know what I'm saying to you now? I mean, just the crazy part is just, if I could go a little bit on this, Adam, because we talk about Russia, Ukraine, just think about this. Trump goes out there and out of the blue, says, I'm tired of Russia. Russia is being so bad on Ukraine. In 50 days, I'm going to put secondary tariffs, not 500% like Lindsey Graham and the Senate were pushing. He goes 100% secondary tariffs on these countries that want to buy, he's giving links. So people right away, the media is jumping out. That's it. Trump's, turning on Russia. He's giving weapons to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the deal that with Ukraine, they're barely getting certain weapons and it's coming from NATO. Trump's making it as hard as possible because of the logistics that have to be involved. It's not just him going ahead and giving them weapons. Secondary, he's not giving them such weapons where they could go fight, attack Russia, barely any weapons to defend themselves, and they're trying to get that. And when it comes to Russia, he gave him 50 days. People's like 50 days, 50 days. And then all of a sudden, Adam, he comes out and says 10 days. The funny part, I was cracking up when the media starts, they were trying to find out why it is. And when CNN started saying that it was because of Melania, that Melania a source told them that Melania had conversations with them and brought up Russia. And then Trump came out and said, yeah, Melania spoke to me. And, said also, I had a change of heart and he's doing it 10 days. I swear to you, Adam, if you go back to my Substack, I was reporting it had nothing to do with Melania, had nothing to do with Ukraine. This was all because of India and China tariffs. All because he was pushing because, and look what how it played out. Look how disgusting. Tomorrow is the deadline. I will bet you anything you want that tomorrow he does not go out there and punish Russia in any way. I'll put my at stake right now that nothing tomorrow will happen. He will push it off. He will make some excuse or do something else. In the meantime, what happened the couple of days ago? He basically, had it out with India. India wasn't agreeing to the tariffs or whatever discussions they were having. So he sends Witkoff there. Everybody thought he's sending Witkoff there because of the nuclear weapons and all of this. Witkoff is going there. No, Witkoff goes over there, and literally before Witkoff gets to leave the office, what does Trump do? He puts a tariff of 25% on India, not 100%, not 500%, 25%. And this is supposed to be so. Let's understand. This is supposed to be a secondary tariff, like he was calling, to punish Russia. This is all of supposed to be to punish. How is he punishing Russia? Okay, maybe he hurt India some. Even that with 25%, they're still going to buy the oil. They're not going to stop. Not let me go even further than that. He talks about punishing Russia with these, tariffs in China and all this. He's never going to go to war with China or Russia, but them buying oil from China. He's barely can't even cut a deal. He has the 12th as his deadline with those tariffs, and he's having difficulty. So now he's going to go after. But let me ask you this question: what agency is going to oversee and make sure that they're overseeing if they're breaking the law? Trump destroyed all of these agencies that oversaw it with Doge when they came in there. They dismantled all of them. There's nobody out there to even keep a track of what's going on. I mean, there might be, but I'm saying to you, understand what I'm saying, Ab. So
Right.
this is all a mirage, because he's not. Because at the end of the day, Donald Trump thinks Putin is going to defeat Russia. It's the same thing as if it was a football game. Donald Trump wants to go with the winner. He tells you that. If he thinks you are stronger, if he thinks you are going to win, he's going to side with you. Donald Trump I've never seen him go for the underdog. Root for the underdog. He always wants to be with the strongest. Comes with that mentality, strong survive, weak will perish, that type of thing. So his relationship with Russia has, drastically changed.
I remember when Steve Witkoff came up in Trump's civil fraud trial. His longstanding business relationship with Trump, Kushner. And you were saying going to the Russia and the rewriting of the history of of Russia's attack on the 2016 presidential election. This seems to be an ongoing project, and there's one school of thought that this is a distraction from the Epstein story. He's bringing this up because he wants to distract, and I'm sure it's a plus for him. But I think on a certain level, this has been his longtime project, even though the Mueller report definitively found, yes, there was an attack on the 2016 presidential election. It came in the form of this active measures campaign, and that this was an attack that the GOP controlled Senate Intelligence Committee found, yes, this happened. And yes, there were dodgy things like the sharing of internal poll data from the Trump campaign to a Russian intelligence officer. This was stuff that was found in black and white in reports by Republican senators and by Mueller. What's your view on Trump's long-term project? Why is he going to the mat to try to exonerate the Russian government for something that has been found by Durham, by the GOP Senate, and by Mueller?
Because all of these people worked on behalf of the American people, on behalf of the Constitution. Donald Trump does things on behalf of Donald Trump, on his head personally, and Donald Trump will have feels that he could do a lot of trade with Russia. Minerals. He feels he could make a lot of money. He could. They speak the same language. He wants to bring Russia back into the G8. He wants to bring Russia back into the world because he feels that it's like having another gangster at the table with him to be able to take over, divide up the world. Like he doesn't care if Putin takes over Ukraine because Trump wants to take over Canada. He doesn't care if Putin goes over there. He believes that he doesn't care if China takes over Taiwan. I mean, I think that's going to be eventually soon on the table. That's just coming up to it. I think eventually we're going to see that breaking news. China's, because Trump's walking away slowly but surely, even with the chip industry being built here in the United States. I mean, it's these little things you got to watch him play out what he cares about, because what Donald Trump cares about right now is where he graduated. And again, going back to this term, why it's so much more dangerous as the first one is, and I write about in my Substack, is that he's not a puppet. He's not only what we call a useful idiot, but where it became dangerous, he's graduated to become a student of dictatorship, a student of authoritarianship. And now he's trying to take what he's seeing overseas, like in Russia, like in North Korea, like in China, things like these parades, military parades, things like where the media doesn't make fun of the president or doesn't go after him, or and tell the truth, doesn't fact check him the way the American media does to him, and all of these things where that little things of acknowledgement has turned into where now he's taking away actual constitutional rights by trying to shut down the First Amendment right by people going to protest, by putting U.S. soldiers on the ground in Los Angeles and elsewhere and threatening them with that, by trying to go after the media, CBS, ABC, CNN, shutting them, suing them. I mean, even Rupert Murdoch, you say something wrong against him, he right away uses the tactic that he used his whole life, was going after the little guy by suing him because he had the money, the power of the lawyers to try to, go after him. Same tactic, nothing changed, just on a much bigger and different level. You know what I'm saying to you, Adam?
Yeah.
And then to push it where he's now taking away our rights as American citizens. He's talking about taking away your citizenship, denaturalizing people. I mean, arresting people off the street without, like we just said, due process, and ending up in El Salvador or somewhere like that. I mean, and we're talking about, I understand some people say, okay, these are immigrants, but there's still a due process. There's still, you have to go to court. The judge has to say, okay, get thrown out, and you can't just get picked up off the street with no judge, nobody knowing where you are, thrown into some alligator Alcatraz, and then 2 days later end up somewhere in a third world country because you didn't fit the description, because your color was a little bit off, because you didn't look like you were American, or whatever that means. And then when you have American citizens being dragged off the street with, when I saw the video of this man being dragged off the street and his wife is screaming, crying, saying that he's an American citizen. What are you people doing? And then the ICE agent coming up saying, I don't care. I mean, are you kidding me? How are you so, Adam? Let me ask you this question. How I remember back in the Soviet Union, one of the ways you had to walk around with your paperwork, with your passport, with your documentation, where you were registered. And as you're walking down the street, you could get pulled over by a police officer and they say, "Show me your paperwork." And if you didn't show them your paperwork, you would end up in jail. Simple as that, until they could verify who you are. And so you always had to walk around with identification of who you are. I- Is that what we are now in the United States, where a driver's license is no good anymore because a driver's license doesn't tell you if you're a citizen or you're not a citizen? So, what is that identification that we need to walk around with thinking about? Because I'll tell you, like, I'll give you a story. I have friends here, in Florida that are, from Venezuela. They are they're they're not pure white color like we are. They have kids that hang out with Mexican, Spanish, all different. And we have these taco trucks that go around and they're delicious, and people get around during soccer games, football games, and these food trucks, right? So we got ICE agents that are literally surrounding these taco stands, where you would have South American or Mexican or Spanish speaking people surround, and people that are American citizens are scared to send their own kids there to hang out, even though there's nothing wrong, because they might get picked up in a sweep, and there's no way to prove it. There's nobody to tell, hey, let me even call my lawyer. It could take 3-4 days before, like, I mean, we're hearing stories. So I mean, yeah, it's a lot crazier to what he's doing, to where he's graduated, because now we're not talking about things like, oh, you know what, I'm going to try to steal something behind your back, like the election, by going putting pressure on Zelensky to announce an investigation, but nobody's going to know about it. No, now he's doing it in open sight. He's like, you want to talk to me? Give me a private jet. You give me $200 million in meme coins. My sons are going to go do crypto now, so I'm going to change all the regulations on crypto. So you want to go invest in? I mean, just think of where we're at. Like, I mean, to the things, to what degree that we're already closing our eyes because we're losing so much more every day. And that's why I say the most important thing, Adam. And we have over 1,000 people right now watching, and I say it and I scream it. This is all meant to part of a thing called election reform, part of Project 2020-25, that is written out there, that right now is being led by people like Stephen Miller, Russell Vaught, Susie Wiles now. And, and they're using Donald Trump just to be the leader out there to do all of this thing, while they're using, just think about, they have ICE right now led by Tom Hoffman, who's not appointed by you, the people. He's not appointed and through Congress or Senate. He's appointed and has loyalty to one man only, and that's Donald Trump. And now he has the power of more money and an agency of more powerful than any other in the United States. That's basically Trump's own little Gestapo, FSB, KGB, wherever you want to call it. And today, there was other news that broke that now they're lowering the age from 21 to 18 years old. So now you're going to have 18-year-old ICE agents running around the street, where the mentality is, don't do the right thing, don't go the extra mile to prove to make sure that you got the right guy, to make sure you don't intrude on their rights of human being. It's the opposite, because now they're going to be told that it don't matter. The number one thing is get them out of here. They're scum. They're this. They're that. And now think about 18-year-old kids with AR-15s with masks on and out there with the mentality being pushed on to go out there and get these people. It's just crazy to hear the things that are happening, Adam, and they're happening every day. And that's why I scream and yell and say that we need to grow this community. We need to get louder. We need to make sure to make our phone calls to congressmen, senators, and make our voices be heard and let them know what's going on, because he is going to try to steal the 2026 midterms. And if he does it, gets away with it, it's over with. I'm telling you here right now, 2028, zero chance, not even happening. I don't know when the next chance when we will have a fair and square election. He will rewrite everything, redistrict everything, will change everything, where you will never have another chance again. So that's why it's important right now. Like, even right now, I'm hearing, I don't know if you're hearing the same thing, that there are literally, not only did they approve that the cash baton, the FBI is going to go after these Democratic reps that are hiding out in California. I mean, in Chicago,
Mhm.
to arrest them and bring him back. But what I'm hearing now from some of my sources also, Adam, is that they're trying to, because they can't validate why, because there's no federal crime that was committed. So they're really pushing the envelope to have FBI agents right now come in and arrest these reps. So now I'm hearing they're trying to concoct a conspiracy, bribery allegations with Pritzker and Beto O'Rourke and others, that they've paid money to bribe these reps not to do their job, just so it could be a federal crime, and just so they could be able to arrest them, bring him there, and to be able, not even for it to stick, not for it to go anywhere, not for it, but the whole key is to be able to redistrict it as quick as possible. And it's happening also under the radar. Nobody's even talking about Florida started. Now they just sent the letter to Florida to start redistricting also in midterm. They're trying to do the same thing. So
Right.
I mean,
It's expanding all over the country, and the whole FBI thing, as you said, it's what would they even stop them for? These are allegedly state laws, and even that is very, very, there's just nothing there. They're out of state. Thank you so much, Lev. It was great catching up, and we'll need to do this again sometime.
well, absolutely, Adam. I'm glad you're here on Substack now. Welcome to the community, and definitely anytime when it breaks, we should do it again. And any of you follow Adam Classfield. Great
Thank
reporting.
Thanks so much, Lev. Great catching up. Good seeing you again after these years.
You too, my brother. Take care. Have a great night.
You too. Bye bye.